managing stress too. Like, I feel like a lot of people just think like, train more, lift weights, but they don't think about like, getting enough sleep and like proper diet. What would be some other factors that you would tell people, like, when you're managing stress, like watch out for this?
Absolutely. You can look at stress as like a bucket, right? And so I use this bucket of what we call adaptive capacity, which means every day that you wake up, you have a bucket that can be either huge to take on a lot because I recovered really well, or it could be dramatically shrunken down like a kitty bucket. What we want to do there is the better that we can recover, the larger the bucket. The larger the bucket, the more stress, the more water that bucket can take on. And what often happens is that when we go too far with our training and we think that we're getting better, there's a concept of fatigue masking fitness, is that we're doing more and we're feeling that just because we're doing more than we are fit, but that's not the case at all. And so what ends up happening is that we continue to spill over our recovery bucket and our adaptive capacity can never really get big. So we're just pushing unnecessary stress onto our system. And so what we have to focus on are what are the lowest hanging fruits when it comes to improving our management of stress. And a lot of that is going to be the basics. Like you had mentioned, what are the one or two things? Sleep is your best supplement. Before anyone asks me, hey, Vince, should I be taking creatine or this or that? Should I be doing this supplement? Or how about BCAAs? No. Are you sleeping? And sleep is interesting because not everyone can afford to get 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep. And if you had time to sleep and you woke up without an alarm, not many people can sleep for 8, 9, or 10 hours if they don't have to get up the next morning at a certain time. So with sleep, we really want to focus on sleep hygiene and our quality of sleep. And so the day ahead is dictated, the success of that day as we perceive it, mentally and physically, is set up by what we do the night before. So if we're following through with those standards, with a high standard of sleep hygiene, that includes, generally just the temperature of my bedroom. I should have, knockout blinds. It should be pitch black. It should be relatively of a cool environment. Weighted blankets are a huge asset. Eye masks, I'm a big fan of, shameless plug here. I have no affiliation to the company, but Manta, I have different sleep masks based on how I'm feeling. I take that seriously. If a sliver of light comes in, I have an eye mask on and it's weighted. You really have to manage that sleep environment. Blue light exposure, right? Can you set the alarm on your phone earlier in the day to go to bed? We always have an alarm to wake up, but can we set a bed alarm? Hey, this is your time to go to bed. And the thing is that when we do a lot of jiu-jitsu and we love it so much, we think about how we try to take better care of ourselves because we want to get on the mats the next day and we don't want to go to jiu-jitsu and not have a good session, right? We have this idea of what success means to us. So we want to take better care of ourselves. So doing these little things like setting a bedtime alarm, making sure that either you're going to go the blue light blocker glasses approach or setting night shift on your phone, little things like that go a very long way. Waking up in the morning, getting direct sunlight exposure for a few minutes as soon as you get up, just go outside, have your coffee on the deck, extend your caffeine intake 2 hours after you wake up. These are little things that, one of my favorite books of all time is called The Slight Edge. It's this aggregation of marginal gains, this little thing that I do that doesn't take much thought, but it ends up compounding to absolutely transform my energy. And if that does, that transforms the battery or the bucket that I have throughout the day. And so if we're focusing on sleep, that's number one, because I find that not many of us are. If we don't have the quantity of sleep, can we drive the quality of that sleep? I like to use wearable tech using Whoop. I want to make sure that as I'm sleeping, that my REM and my slow wave sleep are going to be optimized for the night. So how I have that final hour before bed of not being on my phone as best as possible, trying to keep, my eyes at ease, that's going to improve my REM sleep. Journaling helps a lot with REM sleep. So the more REM sleep that you get throughout the night, I've had evenings where I slept 2 hours longer but I've had less REM sleep duration. So that is affecting my creative capacities the following day. My skill retention, which you and I both know is massive in jiu-jitsu. So sleep is number one. We can go into nutrition and nutrition and hydration should absolutely be a priority, right? Especially hydration. I guarantee that none of us are truly hydrating enough unless we have a hydration plan. We think that we are, but the standard hour of jiu-jitsu through what we do pre and post weigh-ins for most of our members at Durable Grappler, I find about a 4 to 7 pound sweat loss, water loss through sweat per hour. So if that's the case, and we're just drinking regular water, that's not necessarily rehydrating us. We need electrolyte support, right? And that could get into a rabbit hole in itself, but just adding a little bit of salt to your water, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt for every liter. Some people add some lemon in there for extra flavor or some Mio, whatever it takes. We need electrolyte support. And unfortunately, Gatorade doesn't always do the best option because you need a lot of Gatorade